Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Service Management Leadership Podcast. We have two great guests. We have Kat Macdermid and we have Lisa Parnis. And hopefully I pronounced everybody's name right. I have, it's once a show, once every two or three, I butcher one. And with the name like Tefertiller, I'm a little more immune, but I don't want to push that onto everyone. All right, jump right in. Kat, it's great having you back on the podcast. You are our first guest, the original. You set the tone. And so it's great having you back. You've been busy these 3 or 4 months. And so since then, you launched a portal. We'll get into that. You are named an Axelos ITIL global ambassador. How did all that come about? What are your responsibilities? Do you get to sit in first class now, and have a special visa? How does all that work?
Jeffrey, where to? We can't travel.
Mask included, right?
It's true. Jeffrey, thank you so much. And Lisa and I thank you, which we'll talk more in a moment, for being guests on your show. And it was a pleasure and a privilege to be your first guest on your very first podcast. And indeed, since we last spoke, my gosh, what an amazing, that was three months ago, was that correct?
3 or 4,
we last
it
spoke?
was July. It was July.
Yeah, and who would have thought where I'd land where we are today? So I guess the first thing, main thing to address that you spoke about was being engaged as a Axelos ITIL Global Ambassador. Yeah, very honoured to have that privilege. Also, what does it mean? I guess probably not a great deal differently to what I currently do, because I think, and our audience knows that I'm passionate about ITIL and service management. And it's really just, I guess, to work more closely with Axelos and to have more insights about longer term strategies and the like. But as I said, pretty much continuing what I do. And yes, when world does return to normal, I will be at the front of the plane, Jeffrey.
Well, I had to use that analogy, especially with where we're going with the portal conversation, right? And
Correct.
so,
yes, that's right.
That it is such a great honor for you to be on the show, but also for this ambassadorship. And I say that only because the closer you are aligned to the mothership with Axelos in this ambassadorship, the better your customers, your clients on the portal get a benefit, because you are tightly bound there that maybe other providers don't have that same benefit.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and that was a consideration, Jeffrey. But the way I look at this, and it is with hand on heart and all sincerity, I don't find other providers necessarily as being competitors. We're a community, and we're a community about promoting how to do good service management. And that's what I want to do. And then off people go and decide where they want to go and how to do it. And that, as I say that with all sincerity. Yeah.
And that's how I feel as well. I look at the world as a big ice cream shop. Some people like one flavor, some people like another. And as my father used to say, it'd be a boring world if we all chose vanilla, and
that's
sometimes
right.
It jives with different people on how they frame things. All right, so let's jump in. So last Wednesday night, my time in the US, I stayed up late. I get this invite from Vicki Macdermid, your sister, and it was for 11:30 p.m. for your launch of your portal. So of course I stay up, and I'm like, I want to see this. I want to support Kat. I was the only one either so supportive or dumb enough to stay up that late. I'll choose supportive and support you all, because you all were all local and same room, and see my ugly mug on the Zoom picture. But I was so excited for you to launch this new ITIL 4 portal. What inspired you to take this big leap?
I don't think I know. I wanted to make something fun and exciting and different, because us people in IT, we don't always get a good rap. We're sometimes perceived as, boring, too detailed, etc., etc. So I wanted to make it fresh and bring it to life. And as you know, I also specialize in human-centered design, and I guess that's my value proposition of bringing ITIL and human-centered design together. I think that, there's still a lot of opportunity to bring the human aspect into ITIL, and certainly with ITIL 4, we are doing that, and the door is open to further expand on that. But I guess if I may, Jeffrey, if I could hand over to Lisa for a moment, because if it wasn't for Lisa, my vision would not have come to where it is. So Lisa, I guess, you were instrumental, and again, not guess, you are and were instrumental in the creation of this portal. And I guess, Lisa, what did you see in me that was different, that you wanted to support me and work with me? Now we're partners.
I thought it was actually quite timely that your sister introduced us, because I had taken a different direction with my business since COVID as well, because most of my business was in Australia, and I found myself living in New Zealand, which I'm very fortunate to be here. But then having all of my customers, my team and my business in another country. And I had thought that I would really, really love to help some smaller businesses. Most of the businesses I work with or have worked with are massive. It's Google, LinkedIn, News Corp, lots of businesses like that. But I really was interested in the prospect of finding a couple of people that I could help bring their vision to life. And I'd been thinking about that, and then your sister emailed me and said, I need you to meet my sister, and I need you to help my sister. And I knew your sister is a powerhouse. And then I think a few things were really, really clear to me when I met you, Kat. I could see, I've worked with a lot of IT professionals also, not in the same way that you both have, but in different ways. And I could see that you had a unique perspective that I found really interesting and immediately made sense to me. It was so logical, and I loved the thought of humanizing IT service management as the benefit normally of a very high user of IT service management services. And I could see that you wanted a portal, and I just knew that you were really incredibly driven. And so it makes it really easy. You just made things really easy for us. So it was more kind of just extracting everything out of your fabulous brain, Kat. And then, yes, also, 10 timesing that vision and saying, I know you laughed when I said it in that first meeting, but I was like, well, why can't we have the best portal in the world? Let's just aim for that. And that's what we really did.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Jeffrey, I'm not sure if you remember last week when at the virtual launch and in-place launch, that with Lisa, I had sayings for people in my life, and Lisa's saying was, just say it, Kat. Just say it, Kat. Because I think Jeffrey and IT, we're used to, we can't do it. It's not in the budget. It's not the right time. We're always this constraint. And Lisa brought this up. Just say it. And if it wasn't for that, Lisa pushing me, there's no way, as Lisa said, we have the best ITIL training portal in the world. And that's something that jointly we're very, very proud of. As you saw, Jeffrey, and we'll probably talk about it, it's very different, isn't it, Jeffrey? Well, what were your thoughts on, Jeffrey, if I could turn this around?
Well, I loved it. First of all, let me say we all need people in our lives to help us accomplish, to push us where we're not comfortable, to see things that we don't normally see, because we all have blind spots. We all are bound by our own experiences. We need somebody nudging us, sometimes more than nudge, but pushing us forward. But I really enjoyed the user experience of it. And I say that from a training point of view, because in IT, training is usually one person with too many words on a slide up in front, going on and on and on. And you all can tell me how wrong I am, and I'm okay with that. But that is what we're used to, right? And then maybe somebody has some animation in their slide and woohoo. But I really appreciated the thought. So there's two parts. The user experience with Tilly, and we'll get into her in just a moment, but also how everything's strung together. There's the way you tie things together in a methodical way was very nice. And also the packages were small. And I use the word package on purpose there. But it's a small bite of information that we consume, and then we move to the next one, and then we move to the next one, and they build upon each other. That's what I got out of it, is that from a user point of view, that it's easy to consume. It's not training, it's more entertainment for them in terms of their ability to consume it. Does that seem reasonable and quasi compliment to you two ladies?
It's beautiful. Music to our ears. That's exactly the response we want, Jeffrey. Exactly. You said fun and entertaining, and you're so right. Traditionally in IT, and I was one of them. We'd teach with a PowerPoint slide with too many words on the page, and so we might have some animation in there. And this is a completely different learning experience. So yeah, thank you for that feedback.
And the funny part about IT is they go, okay, you got to keep it to 4 slides. And they're like, well, I have 6 slides worth of material. Okay, let's make the font smaller. That's the solution. It's never the solution. And those of you listening, it's never the solution. All right. So for those unaware, we touched on it. What is this portal? What is this thing that we're talking about that Lisa helped Kat create? What is it?
I guess if I go a step, sorry, Lise, and I think we spoke in our last podcast about why I had to go down this path. Like most people, COVID affected me dramatically. I was in the airline industry and traveled the world, and there is no essentially airline industry anymore. So I had to repivot. And as you know, Jeffrey, I've always been passionate about ITIL and service management. So, just quickly, I needed to do something different. I had to pay my bills. Everyone has to do that. And I was fortunate to get an engagement with a company, and that sort of started me on the training path. And I thought, I can do this. This is easy. And this is a true story. And I hope, your listeners can learn from this, that I used to train ITIL in a classroom situation. And I said, I'm doing it online. That's easy because I've got all the content. I literally thought you could just get the PowerPoint content, put it online, boom. No. And but having said that, there are a lot of, with all due respect, a lot of training companies online that do that. And since then, I wanted to make an experience of training. I had the content, I didn't have the experience. And then that's where Lisa has been amazing, and she created that learning experience. I was more creating the content and the concept. But Lisa, I'll hand over to you now, to Jeffrey's question.
Yeah, I would describe it as a portal for IT professionals and people who want to be IT professionals that leverages human-centered design and harnesses some of the best ITIL brains around the world to teach you and make your learning real and applicable. And they're similar concepts of just what I believe learning should be anyway. I want to learn from the best. Why wouldn't I want to learn from the best masters in the world?
Right.
I want to make things real. I want to learn when I want to learn, how I want to learn. And one of the challenges with online, as much as everyone says that everyone loves online, actually you still get phenomenal results from face-to-face training. And so the risk with online training is it's a one-way conversation, and that's telling, that's not teaching. So our challenge was, how do we make online learning a two-way conversation? And so we've got some really cool features that make learning really easy, because we also need to combat what I would say in the learning industry we call the forgetting curve. So within a month of you learning something new, you've probably forgotten 90% of it before you've even really started applying it, especially with such an information-rich, I've changed the word dense to rich, Jeffrey, with ITIL. So such an information-rich course. So as you said, we've got the modules that are really short and easy to engage with. They're also interactive, so you can explore information within those modules. You've got the opportunity to listen to a teacher engaging you, teaching you, using examples. We've got different ways of accessing information. So we've got flashcards that you can use to refresh. We've got 3 different ways that you can test yourself and get yourself ready for your exam. And the 3 different ways that you can test yourself, different types of testing, will also then tell you when you're ready to do your exam, because we know also that people tend to have exam reluctance. And I think learners tend to fall into 2 categories there. There's the overconfident ones. Yep, I'll just wing it. I was never one of those. I was the over preparer and then wondering whether am I ready? Am I going to pass? So we really wanted to help with that also. And then bringing some of the best minds in ITIL 4 and IT service management around the world to teach from your experience. So that's really what we were focusing on. And then really releasing Tilly, your ITIL coach. But maybe, Kat, you want to talk a bit more about Tilly, because I laughed so much, Jeffrey, when Kat said, look, this is going to sound crazy, but this is what I want to do, just because it was so perfect, actually.
Oh, yes. And the two things that you said, and we'll get into Tilly, is we have to tell stories. If people are going to remember, it has to be relatable. The old with them, what's in it for me is applicable, but it's got to be relatable, and stories really help us. And Tilly helps tell that story. And I think that also helps it versus someone just reading. And but the airline thing, let's wait and we'll jump into Tilly. You chose an airline thing. You have an airline background, Kat, and I say airline industry, airline industry. What made you choose airline, especially in this COVID world, right? Over a different industry? And you have plans to replicate this? I was thinking healthcare or banking. You could do something similar. I don't know what you're going to call your bank teller if you do this again, if she's going to be Tilly or whatever, but I'm interested to hear how all that came about. And you can weave Tilly in there too, because Tilly's the best part. I don't want to spoil it for people, but she's chipper. She's always positive, just like you two ladies are. And so, that's awesome. But how'd you get to this airplane themed, or, how'd you get there?
Well, I'm going to practice what I preach, Jeffrey, and use one of the ITIL guiding principles. Start where you are.
Yes.
And I wanted to actually write a book, and I'm in the process of drafting that. And I had to think of something. And I'm like, hang on a sec, I wrote 2 theses for my ITIL Masters. I spent nearly 2 years writing that. And so I had a lot of this rich, dense data, information, knowledge, wisdom. I'm like, why don't I use that? So that's the background when I chose the airline aviation industry. Because as I said, I spoke to industry experts, both from industry, both from IT service management. And you can relate to this, Jeffrey. The problems they were facing in their IT organization could be applied to any industry, which I'm validating. So that's the background to it. And you're right, our plan is to morph Tilly, and Tilly will be the mascot of ITIL, to other industries. So Tilly might become a doctor, so we'll do the healthcare industry. Tilly might become, so for transport, she might become, I don't know, a bus driver or something like that. So that's the idea. We're using different industries. And airline, I think, too, everybody can relate, essentially, to an airline. Essentially everyone has been on a plane or been near it. And that was also, as you said, a key part of what we do. Storytelling is a key tenet of human-centered design. And so we tell a story throughout. We have different stories, we introduce different characters. And as Lisa said, I often say this when I do train in ITIL, sometimes my students know more than me. And I'm an ITIL master, but that's the beauty of it. I'm not an expert, in configuration management, Jeffrey, and you are. I'm not an expert in event management and things like that. You are. So what we've done as part of the portal, we're having we call it Ask the Experts. Is that right, Lise?
Yes.
Yeah. There's an Ask the Experts page, and Jeffrey, you feature on it. You're the first guest, and if you could tell the audience what you wrote about.
Configuration management. So I'm a process practice in ITIL 4, let's correct it, nerd, in that I care about how well do we execute? How well are we maturing? How well are we executing? And so mine was configuration management, because we have to know how our services are defined. We think about the baggage. We think about the person scanning our ticket before we board the plane. Those are all services that IT provides to the business. And so I interwove that in, and the major thought I had for this, and it made me think, hey, can I write a full book on what I gave Kat, was think of configuration management as a genealogy. Everybody knows their family genealogy and how their family units are connected. Think of those as services. How did I get, how did I get my eye color? How did I get, I'm a fairly tall person. Nobody ever sees it on this thing, but I'm a fairly tall person. How did that come to be? How did, left hand, right hand help things? The same thing as in our IT services, that those are passed down through our dependencies, just like configuration management. And so that's a big thought, but it's also true, especially in the airline industry, because think about the gate person that's scanning all the tickets to board the plane. If somebody did an upgrade on her scanner or his scanner, and now they can't board the plane, that's a big uh-oh for IT. And so the other reason I really like the airline industry that use is that we matriculate down path. And when we're traveling, we're moving. And so that's why it also resonates with me.
Yeah, and that's right, Jeffy. When you said you'd like to write a book, and that's what this is about, bringing us all together. And that was a very, very important to me as part of the portal. As I said, I don't know everything. I know a lot about a lot of things. I'm not an expert in everything. I'm an expert in some things. So bringing that together. And also, we have stories from Chris Dolphin, who I did a webinar with Axelos a couple of weeks ago. He actually wrote a white paper on how he brought ITIL 4 into his organisation, and his organisation was responsible for the critical passenger service system of over 300 airlines. So very, very responsible role. And it's a very good read. So that's what I mean. It's just bringing the information together. Which brings me onto your question about Tilly. Yeah, Tilly is our mascot. And I don't know, way I grew up, Jeffrey, how did I come up with Tilly? So obviously it's an acronym of ITIL, and it is bringing ITIL to life. It's in this example, Tilly is a cabin crew member, very senior cabin crew member. Off the record, we wanted her to be a pilot, but it all got a bit hard. But anyway, doesn't matter. The thought is there. Yeah. And it's interesting because when we launched it last week, and Lisa did a tremendous job of the demonstration, to be honest, I think it could have been perceived the other way. And this is the first time I'd seen people's reactions. To see people's reaction in the room, laughing and enjoying Tilly, it was priceless. And so the last 3 to 4 months of the blood, sweat, and a lot of tears has been worth it. And since then, I've actually demonstrated the portal to a very senior executive at one of Australia's largest banks, another one to healthcare, where I'm today here. And, when you do a demonstration, you go, I'll just show 5 seconds of it, that's it. But I actually show all of it. It's about 1 minute and 20 seconds. And just, again, to see the reaction on people's faces. And I think it just works. And we've hit a nerve there, a good nerve, that is making ITIL enjoyable and fun. As I said, the proof is in the pudding. People were laughing. And you saw the comments in the post from the attendees of the launch. Just terrific. Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And I very much appreciate being able to contribute. Configuration management, it is what it is. It's just one of the practices. But I think the ability to tie all that together into one big thought for the ITIL 4 and have Tilly walk us down that path is what's the big deal, right? And so how did you come up with her? Do you know, or were you just brainstorming one day and you thought, hey, let's rearrange these letters?
Well, initially I was going to call her Tilly with a Y, and I thought, and again, using ITIL, but I thought actually, I literally got my pen and paper out. I'm like, can't be Tilly, like why not? And it was just, and the background is actually, I was actually going to do a whole storyline on Tilly, and she was breaking up with ITIL 4, ITIL 3, I should say, sorry. And so the whole thing was about how they've spent, 10 years together, and she's very upset that it's time to say goodbye. But yes, you didn't adjust to modern times. Your service level agreements were still based on IT metrics. You're too process driven, etc., etc. And I actually spent quite a lot of time writing a story, because it's going to be like a short book. But I was correctly and rightly sort of pulled up, if you will, to say ITIL 4 is an evolution. It's not a goodbye to ITIL 3. It's evolved. And so that concept kind of didn't work. I mean, I did a post recently about a girl writing a breakup letter, but that's how initially started, that Tilly was breaking up from this long-term relationship. But as I said, it kind of is not accurate at all, because it's not goodbye to ITIL version 3. So that's the background. And I guess, yeah, that thing in me of storytelling, making it relevant, making it fun, that's the background, yeah.
I was waiting for a post, swipe left for ITIL 3 or something, you know. I'm on to ITIL 4. Sorry. But on the configuration management book, I'm still like at the embryonic stage. I just, you know how you have these ideas and you start things, and then pretty soon you have a collection of all the things you've started. I've written some books because I was focused at the time to get them done, but you know, this is what it is. But I'm glad that, because I really see ITIL 4 as bringing ITIL 3 V3 to another level. I see it as a foundational, not a separation, because you're basically saying, ITIL V3, we love you, we love a lot of things about you, but we need you to improve in these areas, right? And so how do we help you get there? So now let's go, Lisa, I have a question for you. This site is genius. It gives a strong user experience. We talked about that. Your team with Kat did a great job. How did you have you done stuff like this before? Because I know as soon as this gets out, your phone's going to ring. People are like, can you do this for me? Not in ITIL 4. I'm sure you have some non-compete there somewhere. But you and your team did a great job. Is this something you've done before, or is this just all fresh to you?
No, so I'm the founder of a company called Red Hero Group, and we've been operating for 5 years. And I actually started Red Hero because if we come back to what Kat said at the start about how everyone was telling her things were too hard, I got tired of people telling me the things that I wanted to make happen with technology were too hard. And I'd had so many meetings with developers where I'd get the old, oh yeah, that's going to cost a lot. And I thought, well, don't tell me why things are hard. That's not my question, because I actually don't care about something being hard. If all you're doing is easy things, and chances are everybody else is already doing them. So it just inspired me to start my own. And as someone who runs a technology company, I can't code a thing. So I'm the imaginer, and I'm a really great problem solver. And technology is a really great solver of problems. And so, yeah, I really have great people around me. So our key developer on this project with Kat was Griffin. And so the three of us, we did this with a really small team of people, actually, Jeffrey, and we did it relatively quickly. Yeah, and I guess often I think when you haven't built IT platforms before, I can imagine that you would think it's really hard and challenging and extremely costly and things like that. But I think, Kat, we were probably able to prove the opposite of all of those. Like often I think with Kat, Griffin will code things on the spot and we'll resize things and change things. And how about, can we see it like this and see it like that? And I think that really helps us make decisions and Kat make decisions. So, yep, we build portals, but we've mostly done it for really large businesses, Jeffrey. And it's been really, really such a joy to work with Kat and help like another startup, help another entrepreneur's vision come to life. So, Griff and I would often get off a call with Kat and be like, wow, like our customers are grateful, but Kat is so genuinely grateful, like to see it come to life. And we really love that. So we're definitely open to doing more of it. especially with COVID. I can imagine that there's lots of thought leaders around who are genuine thought leaders, have their own IP, but aren't experts in learning or technology. So yeah, we can definitely help.
I've met a lot of learning people in different organizations, and most of them struggle. And I say struggle because they slap content onto content management systems, and that's not learning, you know. And when you said things are too hard, coming from an IT person, I'll get hate mail, but I don't really apologize. Usually the only people telling you it's too hard or too expensive are the ones that aren't really good. The ones that are really good say, oh, that's easy, give me just a minute, I'll whip it up for you. And that's my view of working in technology since a long time. And so, you know, the people that are really good, like obviously Griffin is, it's not too hard for them, because, you know, and those people are enablers. It's like, tell me what you're wanting, and let's try to create these outcomes that people want to hear. Kat, what do you want to add on top of this?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity to add on that, because what I wanted to say also is that what I've found is who I am today is very different to who I was 5 years ago, as most people. But in the regard that IT people, and I know we're boxing them, but I'm going to use persona, my type of IT persona. We kind of think we can do it all.
Yes.
In that, as you said, we can do PowerPoint slides and we can do training. And I find like a lot of, with, again, all due respect, and I'm only saying this to be absolutely helpful, is a lot of training companies or consultants or something think they have the right skills. And we don't. We simply don't. I am not a designer, an illustrator, a graphic designer, adult learning specialist. I am not. So it's very important, if I can give some advice, that you get the right people to do the job.
Yes.
And what I think I'm good at is having these crazy ideas and these concepts, and using people like Lisa that can say, no, it's not too hard, allowing me to you know, open up my vision even more. And that's what important is, to get the right people to do the job. And that, to me, that's pivotal to a success. And also to validate yourself. And Jeffrey, you know yourself, it takes time, effort, money,
yeah.
But you are now a well-respected and well-known person in the industry. And that didn't happen overnight. And you have to work on that. So, you know, success doesn't happen overnight. And conversely, I've done the same. I've spent the last 2 to 3 years of very similar in that regard, Jeffrey. We're passionate about what we do, and we work very long hours.
Yes.
You know, and you stayed up very late to see my portal. That's a great example. And a lot of people wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Sometimes we have too much flexibility in our world, because then everything gets pushed down to late at night. But there's two things I want to push into. Like, vision is so underrated. Execution is too, but vision is. I go back to this Henry Ford quote, the guy that started Ford Motor Company. He said, if I asked my customers, they would have asked for faster horses. And I think that's us in so many ways. People are asking, hey, can you just take your content and put it in this format? You're like, no. Let's create something that's a user or human-centric view and walk them down this path, enabling them to learn in different ways. Does that seem fair?
Exactly. Absolutely. And there's quite a few pictures of when I've studied human-centered design that bring that to life. And there's a picture of a small child reaching, I've just given away, trying to get a book off a bookshelf. And IT people would say that she needs a ladder. But what she wants to do, she wants to reach. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a ladder, but that's what we tend to do. Yeah. So find out, you know, the why and the how. Just don't give them the answer straight away. 100%. Yeah.
Oh yes, and you mentioned mine. So most people know this, some people don't. I started putting out little 3-minute YouTube videos in 2016, 2017. I have over 1,000 out there, Lisa. People all over the world. And so it's the weirdest thing, because I get all kinds of strange calls that I'm happy to help people with their problems, right? But you put out 1,000 videos and 1,000 different topics, you know, that are just edible, small, consumable, and it's quite interesting. And so I'm with you, Kat, because the more we do, the more we put ourselves out there, sometimes the more lonely it becomes, and the more we are not surrounded around other thought leaders. And I think that's where we back ourselves, or to use an illustration, we paint ourselves into a corner, and we aren't able to freely share ideas. Hey, I've had this experience. Have you had this too? Let's walk down this path together. Because you're right, this is a big pool. We had David Ratcliffe on the podcast many weeks ago, soon after you were on, and he said, at Pink, we don't think of everybody being competitors. It's a big industry, and so that's how I view it. That's why I always use the ice cream analogy. Some people aren't your flavor, and it's all right.
And that's exactly right. That's how I said at the beginning, Jeffrey. I don't. We're all in this together, and the more we promote it together, the better off we all are. And if I may just go back a step, Jeffrey, when you said about the portal being for other industries, interesting. I had a CEO of a company in Australia reach out to me that is nothing to do with iTool, but she saw some of the launch photos and speaking about the portal. And she actually wants to use our approach, the one that Lisa has developed for the Adult Learning for our portal, for something completely different, not for iTool. So, as you said, it is such an amazing platform that can be utilised for any type of learning, using the concepts that Lisa has developed, which I said is extremely, very, very unique in the world. We've done it. Lisa has done a lot of research on this, and yeah, we're the only ones that are doing it.
The royal we is how we refer to it, right? The we are doing this. All right, so we talked about all of this and what Tilly is, and so I agree with you. Whether it's a utilities company talking about safety, you could have Tilly talking about safety, right? President of the utility talking about why it's important and walk down, or whatever you can take it across any industry. So when does the portal go live officially? Where can people find it? How can people get in touch with, all right, KatrinaMcdermid.com is pretty easy, right? But how can they get in touch with you two ladies? All those answers. We'll let Lisa go first, right?
So our portal is being launched to the public. So we have public courses where people can just come online and do the course. That'll be launched week commencing the 2nd of November. Anyone in the world can find that at iTool4.com. And we're also releasing a special offer for people who've been impacted by COVID. So Kat and I are sponsoring 5 exams for people who may be in the process of trying to find employment. And we're going to release that on LinkedIn. We're going to ask for some applications so that we can select 5 fabulous humans that will have full access to our portal, and then we will sponsor their exams as well.
So if you're listening to this and you see it on LinkedIn, tag somebody you think would appreciate this. Let's get the application pool large is what we're asking for, right, Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're open to more. We'll see how we go. So Kat's website, so katmcdermid.com or iTool4.com.
Kat, how about you? What do you want to pile on for this?
I will use my best medium, which is LinkedIn, to continue to promote within our community. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my community. The response to my post last week, 2 posts, has been phenomenal. It got trending status. And it's such an honour and very humbling that I have this support in the community. And in answer to your question, I will just be via the post, and as Lisa said, really excited to be sponsoring people in our industry or not our industry that do want to move into iTool as well. And as you said, Jeffrey, little things make a big difference. And by that I mean you do 3-minute videos. That's how I actually came across you. And so we'll be asking the people that we're sponsoring to write blogs about their experiences, and who knows where that leads. And this is what networking and community is all about.
Oh yes, and this is a big community. You know, everybody wants to make it like finite. No, it's unlimited. You know, there are college students that are going to graduate in May that may be the biggest benefactor of our community 5 years from now, and we just don't know. And so they may be the biggest contributors in the same way. So
Exactly. Yeah.
itil4.com, Kat McDermott or Katrina McDermott?
Katrina McDermott. Yeah.
KatrinaMcDermott.com, and find Kat on LinkedIn, Lisa as well. It's great having you ladies on. We thank you for your time, and I wish you all much success.
And Jeffrey, if I may take this opportunity, and on behalf of Lisa and myself, thank you, not just for giving this opportunity, but contributing to, as you said, our community, your knowledge and experience. You're very generous in many, many ways.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We try. You know, this is a world that we're all on a spinning globe together. How can we help each other? It's all good. And so I do wish you all well, and thank you all. And our listeners, please reach out to these two ladies, connect with them. And I'm sure Lisa's going to get a lot of contact after all this, because it's great. You all don't need to hear me say this. Go check it out the week of the 2nd of November. Have a great day, all.
Great.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with Jeffrey's closing thoughts. Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey back with closing thoughts. Wasn't it great having Kat and Lisa on the podcast? It's great having Kat back on. She was our first guest. We appreciate her support. We appreciate just getting to know our guests better each time they're on. There are two things I want to briefly touch on as we reflect back on this podcast. Number one, a strong UX, a strong user experience helps our people learn. And so when we are doing training, let's think of service management training or any type of training, we need to consider the user experience. This isn't just let's throw it at them and see what they consume. Let's think about it. How do we help their journey? How do we help them learn better, faster, and now become ambassadors themselves? Second of all, ITIL 4 is here. And so we appreciate Kat's leadership, because ITIL 4 is coming. And those of you all still with ITIL V3 organization set up with service design, transition, operations, and so on, the time's going to be coming. It may be next year, it may be 2022, but you need to get your thoughts, your preparations in line with that this is coming. And let's embrace it. Let's embrace it together. And we at Service Management Leadership would love to be your partner, be your support. And so if there's something that we can do to help you, let us know. And so once again, thank you to Kat and Lisa. And I hope everyone has a great, great day. Bye.